I think we're live.
There you go, David.
All right. Welcome to this edition of LARA Live. I'm here with the State Fire Marshal, Kevin Sehlmeyer. My name is David Harns. I'm a communications manager here at LARA. And today we have our special guest, and we're going to discuss, among other things, fireworks.
It's the season.
It is.
Yep.
And last night I was sitting in our little sunroom, and my dog started freaking out because some people were shooting off fireworks.
Right.
And so it reminded me of what we're doing today. So anyway, regarding that, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some other things, but let's just get right into the fireworks because over the last few weeks, there's been some news reports that weren't entirely accurate, based on the new fireworks law. And so we wanted to make sure that we could clarify that. It's my understanding, just looking at it, at a broad level, is that the legislature still allows for local control, but they changed the number of days in which the locals have control. Is that a way to look at it?
Yes, they have.
Okay.
If a local form of government wants within the state, so it could be a village, township, city, right? If they want to, they can enact an ordinance that would limit the days. So in the past, there was 10 holidays. Okay. It was the day before and the day after. In Public Act 256, I brought a copy of it along because I think it's that's important that if people want to go out, it's pretty easy to get online. Okay. It's Public Act 256 of 2011.
Just Google that
and put in. Actually, if you put in MI Public Act 256, I find it comes up pretty quickly. Okay. So when we start getting into it, it's 28.457. Okay. And it talks about local ordinances. And so what it talks about, it says a local unit of government may enact an ordinance regulating the ignition, discharge, and the use of consumer fireworks, including but not limited to an ordinance prescribing the hours of the day or night during which a person may ignite, discharge, or use consumer fireworks.
So that's a lot of fancy language for the local municipality can regulate the use of fireworks.
Yeah. And to go even a little further, last year we did a similar LARA Live, and one of the things that we talked about was these 10 days. Okay. It's more defined now. It is December 31st up until 1 a.m. on January 1st. So New Year's Eve going into New Year's Day for 1 hour. Okay. And this is if they enact the ordinance. I think that's the big thing that we really need to realize is that if a local form of government does not enact this, it's 365 days a year.
Right. And that's what I
24/7.
wanted to make sure we spelled out today was that if your local government has done nothing on this issue, then you are free to shoot off fireworks whenever you want. There's nothing against the law that allows you to. Maybe common sense would say don't wake your neighbors and don't do those types of things. But according to the law, local units of government now have the ability to regulate only on those 10 days. Or only on those 30 days.
It's specific days. Let's talk about that for a second because I think that's important. So we talked about December 31st until 1 a.m. on January 1st. Yep. The Saturday and Sunday immediately preceding the Memorial Day holiday. So not Memorial Day, but the Saturday and Sunday of that weekend up until 11:45 p.m. Okay. And then it's June 29th through July 4th. Okay. And if they have an ordinance, they can limit it displays up until 11:45 on those days. If July 5th falls on a Friday or a Saturday, then it counts.
It gets included.
So it's June 29th to July 4th, except for the years where July 5th falls on a Friday,
which is this year.
Yep. Or Saturday, and then it's till 11:45. And then the same thing with Labor Day. It's the preceding weekend, Saturday and Sunday to Labor Day.
But not on Labor Day.
So
if you're a local government and you want to put in restrictions, that's the tightest that you can restrict them? Is that accurate?
And that's the other part that everybody in the state can set off fireworks on those dates during those times.
You can't, local municipalities cannot say no to those dates and those times. But they can, however, pass an ordinance that says no on all of the other days and all of the other times during the year. Yeah. But if they don't do anything, then you're free to shoot off fireworks whenever you want.
There isn't an ordinance.
Okay. All right. Well, again,
so hopefully that clarifies some things because you're right. Memorial Day weekend, there were a lot of the local media, especially in the Lansing area. Yeah. I'm over in the Grand Rapids area. I didn't hear it or see it as much over there, but in the Lansing market, I think somebody got a story going and they thought it was a story. Right. Nope, it's these 12 days. Yeah. That's not the case.
It's not accurate.
Unless there is an ordinance that it confines it to those dates. But outside of that,
yeah, I did see many stories that said that you're only allowed to shoot off fireworks on these days, and that's inaccurate based on state law.
And that's, like I said, coming out of Public Act 256, 28.457, and it spells out how the municipalities go about actually, almost getting the language for their ordinance too.
Sure.
So
it makes it pretty easy for them.
It does.
So if you are a member of a local government and you want to put in an ordinance that restricts fireworks in your area, just go to that public act and you can restrict it to those 12 days if that's something you're interested in. Otherwise,
yep. And another change, we should talk about this.
Sure.
So if there is an ordinance in there, there can be a civil fine of up to $1,000 for each violation
if you break the.
So there's some significant changes to Public Act 256 that were enacted at the end of the year.
Okay.
But now they're in full effect as we move forward, going into the.
We have Independence Day
fireworks season.
Yeah, right? Independence Day holidays coming up here soon, so there'll probably be more reporting on this done, and we'll put out a press release to make sure that is reported correctly this time. So that'll be good. So we've kind of gone through a little bit of when and where we can set them off. What about where we can buy them legally? Like, is there is that year round now, or do these stands just pop up now and that's the only place you can buy them, or what's the rule on that?
So through the Bureau of Fire Services that I oversee, the Fireworks program, we actually issue certificates. You cannot get a certificate any longer. You had to have your application in by April 1st.
Now, that's just for this year, though, right?
This year, right. And that actually is in place until the 30th of April of next year.
Okay, now you're talking about just those people who sell.
Yep, and so you say, where can you get fireworks?
Yeah.
If somebody has a brick-and-mortar storefront fireworks building, that certificate's good for that period. That's called a permanent fireworks facility. Some of the temporaries are the tents that you see.
Okay.
So you see the tents pop up. Those also are regulated by us. So one of the things on the tents is a lot of times you'll see they're starting to open up. You'll see them open up usually starting Father's Day weekend. Yeah. And they'll be open till usually the weekend after the 4th of July.
Okay.
But they can use that certificate all the way until April 30th of next year.
So they theoretically could open up and open up for other holidays.
Right. But what we find is that that to have the tent there, and they have to be in the tent. That's the other thing. You have to have control of the fireworks. And so in the process, a lot of them, they'll notice that the sales start to taper off.
It's
not uncommon to see them pop back up at Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
Some of those things.
For a couple
and
days.
Especially now that we talked about, you could have that ordinance. It would spell out those times. But otherwise, it's year round.
Okay.
But I don't think you see as many of the temporaries throughout the year.
And so a facility or a temporary facility had to have applied back in April, and you guys
their application had to be in by April 1st.
Okay. And you guys have gone through a process now where your team has gone out and inspected and made sure that or will you do that once they open?
We're doing that as they open. So the ones that have a certificate, so let's say you and I decided we want to get in the fireworks business. We would get our certificate, we would name our location.
Okay.
We would then say that we're going to open up at this location. There's an ability within the law for them to open where they can open up, and then we follow up behind with an inspection. Okay. Now, they sign an affidavit saying that they have everything right. And I say everything right is you're going to be open at night. They have to have lighting in that tent. They have to have clearly marked exits. There has to be a perimeter around that tent of 10 feet. No cars can be within that. If they have a generator, because if you're going to run lights, typically you're in a parking lot, you need a generator. That generator has to be 50 feet away. The fuel source has to be 50 feet away. So the idea here is there's a lot of stuff they have to follow. They have to have fire extinguishers. They have to post a certificate. There's that stuff. So once we get a call, so let's say we have a certificate and we're going to open this weekend. It's not uncommon. The tent's going up today and they're calling and saying, hey, we want to open. Remember, they've signed that affidavit saying that they're all, and so we're going to get them to, it could be today. We have inspectors all over the state. We can get out there, but eventually we are going to make it to every one of those sites.
So they don't have to be inspected per se to open, but they will be inspected at some point.
Whether it's brick and mortar or temporary, every site annually is inspected. And I say annually, it's going to be inspected at least once. We also are out doing some enforcement and also just some general type patrol where we're looking, because one of the things that we also notice at this time of year, there's folks that pop up and want to sell fireworks that don't have the certificate. So
where is this certificate located? Let's say I'm going and I want to buy fireworks this weekend, Father's Day, and I want to shoot them off because my local township doesn't have an ordinance in place. Where would I look at in this tent for the certificate? Is it required that it's posted somewhere?
Yeah, it's supposed to be posted. So, typically it's going to be in the area where the fireworks are at.
Okay.
But it's not uncommon that, you could have party stores could have a certificate also.
Okay.
It'd be temporary. They're only selling it for a period of time. But, one of the things that if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to Bureau of Fire Services.
Okay.
And we can make sure that, and before the end of the call, we'll make sure, or the end of this, I should say call, the end of LARA Live, we'll make sure that they have that phone number.
Okay.
But the idea here is if it doesn't look right or doesn't feel right, please reach out to us.
Okay.
We're not asking for any citizens to get involved whether somebody has a certificate or not.
Right.
What we do want to make sure, though, is that customers are buying from reputable sources that sell fireworks, and we want to make sure that we do that for you. So.
Okay. And so then, do you have that number, or do we need to look that up?
Just a second. I'm going to get that.
And, while you're looking that up, let's go through here some of these other questions. This is the type of the time of the year where a lot of different things are happening, and some of these things fall under your purview,
right?
Whether it be fireworks or whether it be some of these other things, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later in LARA Live, including fire prevention and those types of things. But do you have that?
Yeah, you ready for that phone number?
Yeah.
So if anybody, any consumers out there have any concerns they have with fireworks, especially in the buying and the selling of fireworks, the best number to call for our fireworks hotline is 517-388-6715.
388-6715.
Yep.
And that's area code
517. And that phone is there's somebody there to answer that phone 24/7.
Okay.
Not to say they couldn't be taking another call, but leave a message even. And we'll follow up. And as I shared earlier, we're not looking for anyone to get involved in. But I'll also say this. If you were to see somebody selling out of a vehicle, you can't do that. And also, once they have a site, so you and I put up a tent, we have to stay in that site.
Okay.
Even though we might have picked the wrong place, we can't just move down the road.
Okay.
So if most of these tents you're going to see, like I said,
they've been there for a long time.
You're going to notice that they're there. They're a good sized tent.
Yeah.
They're going to have some type of barricade or a snow fence or streamers around it that clearly define the perimeter of that tent, and then out 10 feet, remember, for parking.
Yeah.
So if you see somebody with a easy up, tailgater tent selling out of the back of a minivan,
that's not it.
They're not it. And I would encourage you, please call that number.
Okay.
So that we are able to, follow up on that.
Sure. Looks like we have another question over here, and on the comment section here. Let me read it real quick. Are brick-and-mortar inspections by BFS only pertaining to fireworks, or all aspects of fire and life safety covered at that time?
Yeah, it's the whole building.
Okay.
It's the building for life safety, and it's also for the fireworks. And when I say for the fireworks, it's how even how the fireworks are displayed. They're within the NFPA standard. And that's the National Fire Protection Association. There are standards of even how long the aisles can be. They have to have what they call a flame break.
Okay.
Flame break could be nothing more than a piece of plywood that's slid on the end. You can only go so many feet.
Okay.
So
that's just to stop them from.
Yep. But we also want to make sure that whether you're coming into a tent or you're coming into a permanent fireworks store, we want to make sure that you can freely move around in the store, and that if something was to happen, that the exits are clearly marked and you can get to those exits.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's one of the things, early in the seasons, whether it's tents or even brick and mortars, you bring in what you think you're going to sell for the season, but you just can't have it all in the store. And I'll tell you this, a lot of our folks that sell fireworks, they do a really good job. They have trucks, they have shipping containers and stuff, and they're moving product in and out of the stores as they sell it.
Okay.
But that is part of one of the things we're doing through the enforcement is we're going out and we're making sure that they're doing that, because it might be easy just, hey, we'll just bring it all in here and pack the store up. And that isn't allowed either. So we are looking for that. And it ultimately comes down to, folks say, well, it's the life safety for the customers, also the life safety for the employees working in that store. We want to make sure that they have the ability to get out safely.
Okay, well, that's good. Would you say that those who have a certificate are only selling products that are legal in the state of Michigan? So in other words, is that something that that if you buy from a reputable seller, that you're buying legal products here in Michigan, and that you don't have to worry about the fact that you might be purchasing something that's not legal in Michigan?
Well, and that's one of the things that we're out looking at, right?
Okay.
And one of the things is that the explosive class for consumer grade fireworks is 1.4, and it'll be clearly marked on the fireworks. So if you're looking at, if it's 1.3, it's usually on the commercial side.
Okay.
I will say this, that we through enforcement last year, we actually took a lot of fireworks off the street last year.
Okay.
We found a few individuals that had imported some stuff that, while it was marked 1.4, we'll call what was overloads.
Okay.
So, that's one of the things that the Bureau of Fire Services out there are doing also. And it's kind of hard for the consumer to tell, because you remember they put the wrapper on it that says 1.4.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a great staff that has the ability that they can start looking at things and go, it doesn't seem right, or it's usually weight.
Okay.
If you want to make it go boom or go higher or be brighter, you typically have to increase the weight of the device. Okay. So our staff is, and we've recently provided training internally to all of our fire inspectors who are out on the streets. And when I say out on the streets, we're going to focus here in the next few weeks on fireworks. But these same inspectors are out doing school construction at certain times of the year. They're also doing healthcare and adult foster care homes. So our staff switches gears this time of year to get out and to actually look at these tents.
And your inspectors are out there to make sure that we don't have any fun, right? That's their goal. Their goal is to go out there, make sure that we don't buy the nice fireworks. Or is it something other than that?
No, actually, we want you to have fun, and we understand that is part of buying fireworks, right? But what we don't want is, we don't want some of the homemade stuff.
Okay.
We don't want the overload stuff, and we've seen some tragedy with some of the homemade stuff. If you look at consumer grade fireworks at 1.4, most of them are going to have bright labels. They're trying to get your attention. They might have a name that sounds impressive on it, right? Mm-hmm. When you get into the commercial side, it's more of almost like a brown paper bag. Yeah. You get into even some of the homemade stuff that we've taken off the street. It's pretty. It looks like it's wrapped in some of it. It could be as small as things that look like little triangles that actually are wrapped in what would look like your lunch bag that you carry to school when you're a kid. So we're looking for those type of things. And also realizing that, we want you to have fun. We want you to have a good 4th of July or through the season, but we also want you to realize that people get injured by, and that's where that overload part, where I told you we took some of that off. Great work to our staff last summer that we got into some places. And, this is a good point to maybe segue into, and here's how we kind of found out is you can't sell fireworks on Craigslist. Okay. Now, it's not to say that you couldn't advertise if we have a legitimate tent, we could say that. But if you're going to somebody's house, you can't sell fireworks out of somebody's house. Okay. If you're going to their pole barn and different things like that. So I realize that sometimes you're going to get into tight buildings in some areas we're going to say, but if you're going out to somebody's house or you're meeting them in a parking lot at a car, you're not buying these legally through the system. And probably one of the things that's important when we talk about, we want you to have fun, we want you to have a great display, we want you to be patriotic and everything. But what I want you to know is that there's a 6% safety fee that's collected on the sale of fireworks that actually goes towards firefighter training. Okay. So one of the things that we want to make sure is that for the folks that are doing it right, that pay for these certificates to be able to sell, it's not fair to them to have competition with people who didn't pay for that certificate, right? So when we talk about calling that number, if it doesn't look right, say something. Yeah. We want to go out there and number one, we're going to seize that product. Okay. There's some pretty big fines involved. Okay. And in the process, we want to get that off the street so that the folks who are legitimately selling consumer grade fireworks have a fair and level playing field.
Because they're following the rules.
They are.
And they should be rewarded, if you will, for being, getting licensed, following the rules, keeping everybody safe, selling the products that are allowed. The products that are illegal for a reason. Right. And if the state wanted to change that, they could. But at this point, the illegal products are illegal, presumably because they're unsafe for those.
Or they're going to have larger amounts of the explosive in there.
Yeah. That you should leave to the professionals.
Right. Okay. Exactly. And that's that fine line, right? I mean, there are people that go out and put on some fantastic displays in our community. And, and there's some folks that's how they enjoy their holidays, right? They go to those type of displays. There's also folks, though, that want to have their own display. Sure. And maybe they want to do it at their house. They want to do it. And so, that's the other part of where I wear almost two hats as the state fire marshal. I mean, we run the fireworks sales side program.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, we also are, want to make sure that folks do this as safely as they can. And that's one of the things that's also required in the Public Act is that they have to provide some printed material on some firework safety.
Okay.
I want to say firefighter safety, but hopefully you won't have a firefighter at your house,
if you do it right. Yeah.
If you do it right. And that a lot of the firefighters are also doing emergency medicine and EMS calls.
Yeah.
So, that's where I'm hearing firefighters say, this is where we hear about some of the stuff that we see, especially when people don't use it the right way.
Right.
And you got to be 18.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To purchase or to use?
To purchase and to use.
Okay.
And, this is the thing that you want to make sure is, where are the fireworks used in proximity to your house?
Okay.
You want them right up against your house. You want to have some distance. It's supposed to go up on your property and come down on your property.
Okay.
Okay. And I know that always gets into some folks say, well, what about all the debris you can't control? But the other part is that, you want to keep pets away from where you're lighting. You want to keep small children away, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to keep children away.
Yeah.
And you also want to have a bucket of water ready. Also, if a firework doesn't light or go up, don't continue to try to relight it. It's probably it's a dud.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's still dangerous.
And it's still dangerous at that point of setting it off to the side and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And we want you to use it as safely as possible.
Very good. What is a low impact firework?
Well, low impact is probably the stuff that a lot of us bought when we were kids.
Okay.
It's the snap pops.
Okay.
It's you start getting into sparklers. You get into the stuff that doesn't really go high. The cones. A lot of times you'll see them where the thing spins and there's sparks coming out of it. That's low impact.
Do you need to be licensed to sell those?
You have to have a certificate in the state of Michigan to do that. So they have to be registered.
Okay.
And in the process, that was a change that's in the law. In the past, it was free. This year, there's a fee that goes with that.
Okay.
But, the low impact, you can get it in grocery stores, retailers around the state. So when we talked about the brick and mortar, the bigger places, right,
mm-hmm.
the permanents, and then we have the tents, which are the temporary that have the 1.4 when you get into the low impact. Now, it's not to say that you couldn't get that low impact stuff, so if you're into sparklers and some of that type of stuff, the fountains and some would say the stuff that doesn't go way up into the sky. How about that you can still get that. You just have to, you have to go to different sources. But the folks that have certificates also have the ability to sell that also.
Okay. A question that we have here. Are there specific requirements for the brick and mortar stores as far as fire alarms and fire sprinkler requirements for sales of, let's just say, low impact fireworks, but also, the regular fireworks?
Yeah. So on the brick and mortars, for the ones that have been in business for a period of time, depending on the size of the building, there were sprinkler requirements. Okay. That type of thing. As we move forward, that is a change in the law.
Okay.
And in the process, that any new fireworks stores permanent that open up in strip mall type locations, they have to be sprinkled.
Okay.
And even it doesn't matter on the square footage.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good.
I'm not sure who's feeding the questions, but those really are a lot of the things that are spelled out in the update in the law.
Okay.
And that is some stuff that's specific that we're going to enforce as a Bureau of Fire Services. But the idea is to make it safer for when you have a building full of fireworks and such.
Is there you had mentioned sparklers. They're generally seen are deemed pretty harmless. Does anybody get hurt by sparklers?
Yeah, actually, if you were to go on and you Google some things on injuries, sparklers account for a lot of burn injuries that are seen at local emergency rooms. Burns are painful.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, you don't have a lot of control of, that's part of waving them around. I guess that's part of it. But, and then also having a place for when you're done with the stick or the rod with the sparklers on, something to put them in. And a lot of folks will use a little bucket of water where they actually, once they're done, they dip them in there.
All right. Well, I'm just going through the rest of these questions here on fireworks to make sure we've covered everything. Is there, let's see here. When a commercial display is fired off of a barge in a Michigan lake, does the DNR have to issue a permit along with a permit issued by a local board? What do you know about commercial displays? Do you guys regulate that?
We don't.
Okay.
Now, we do provide a form that they have to fill out when they go to get it, but that's more of that would be a specific DNR question.
Okay.
I really wouldn't want to. We're more on the consumer grade at this level.
Okay.
And I think if we stay to that, but follow up with the DNR. I'm sure that they can answer those questions, and And there are areas that, communities that are on bodies of water or have harbors and stuff where there are displays. So we want to make sure that they're done as safely as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
You remember years ago, there was a display up north where there were some folks injured. So they would be the ones to talk with. And, the folks that are doing the 1.3, which isn't the consumer grade, that's a professional grade.
Yeah.
There's different NFPA standards and such that they have to follow. And part of it is having that distance between where they're firing it off and where the crowd's at. Unfortunately, we've learned some tough lessons in history about when we kind of let the crowd get too close to what they're setting off.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier, one last thing before we move on from fireworks, but you mentioned earlier that fireworks that are sold legally and through the licensed retailers, they come with, I'm assuming, the 6% sales tax as well as the 6%, what was it called? Safety fee. Okay. Yeah. Can you just talk a little bit more about, do you know how much that adds up to on an annual basis or an estimate of that?
Yeah, so in 2019, there was $2.3 million dispersed to the fire departments across the state.
Okay.
So to give you an example of the safety fees, so we know that the safety fees come in, and then the money is distributed to each county. Every county, all 83 counties, got $17,500. Okay. So, and that was the largest amount ever given for fire training in any county in the state. And that is through the Michigan Firefighter Training Council. Public Act 256 talks about safety fees. Then it goes into Public Act 291, and it talks about how that's dispersed through the Michigan Firefighter Training Council. So 17.5. Now $17,500 doesn't add up to 2.3 million. So there was additional money that was left.
Yeah.
Of that money that was left, we use a formula based on population and geographical area of the county. So I'll give you an example. The county that gets the most money in the state for fire training of firefighters is Wayne County.
Okay.
The most populated county in the state, right? Coupled with, so that they get the largest percentage. And then it works down from there. So the next one would be Oakland County, Macomb County, Kent County, Muskegon County. There's 26 other geographical areas in the state based on population. And there are a couple in the UP, being Marquette and Sault Ste. Marie, that actually get more than 17,500.
Okay.
So it's kind of divided up amongst that. The fire departments have a choice of the training that they bring in. The training is all approved through the Michigan Firefighter Training Council. They get to have some choices on what they want to do to train their firefighters. Okay. So some would ask, what does $17,500 give in this realm of training? Right. Well, in 72% of the fire departments across the state, they're volunteer fire departments. Right. So in many of these counties, this is the money that we use to train the first responders, the firefighters who are going to go out in the community. So at $17,500, it gives them enough to do a firefighter 1 and 2 class.
And that's just the minimum that you get.
That's
per
the
county.
minimum.
Every county gets that. And the larger counties get more.
Yep.
So when you go and you purchase your fireworks this weekend or coming up here, and they tack on that extra 6% for the sales tax, and then that extra 6% for this, you can kind of be, like, hey, I'm helping out the firefighters in their training. So that
is one thing that was tied to it. Is that that with that in 2011 with fireworks being legal, 1.4 fireworks, consumer grade fireworks, was that there would also be this money collected then for that would enhance fire training.
Okay. So as the state fire marshal, you wear a lot of hats. You mentioned a couple of them earlier. Right. One of the big ones that we've been working on recently is a program called My Prevention. MI stands for Michigan Prevention. Yep. Can you just kind of give us a quick overview as to what My Prevention is, what it means, and why it matters?
Okay. One of the things that we had a high number of fire fatalities last year.
Okay.
We also had noticed that previous, even the last year, the trending wise. Now, mind you, Michigan is in the top 10 states in the country for population also. Okay. So when you start looking at population and area and the number of fires that we have in Michigan, is that we had a high number of fire fatalities. It's one thing to have, if you want to say in the top 10 of population, but where would we like to be in fire death? We'd like to be in the
bottom 10.
Bottom 10, right? I mean, that is our goal.
Yeah.
So when I became the fire marshal, it was very clear. The director here at LARA at the time said, "Fire marshal, you need to start working on this." One of the things that we started working on is almost immediately within months, and I'm talking about this is going back 2 years ago now. Okay. We put a task force together, and we put together a strategic plan unfortunately, with a lot of things, when you want to implement new programs and such, funding is an issue, or securing funding.
Right.
So we got the program up and running. We were doing education. We were helping out fire departments. We would do media outreach and different things to try to get the message out to test your smoke alarm.
Okay.
That didn't cost anything in a lot of ways to get that message out. But so organically, we tried to grow our presence. In the process, it came up was we ought to name this group. Prior to that, it was the Community Risk Reduction Task Force.
Sure.
And this committee that really started out with less than 20 people, it's like 17, 18 people in this planning session, said, we kind of need a name. But we kept rolling.
Yeah.
But we had an opportunity to submit for a FEMA fire prevention grant. Okay. And these grants are given out to fire departments and states across the country to try to reduce the number of fires and fire fatalities. And we were very fortunate last year, August 30th of 2018, we were awarded $525,000. And that really jump-started our program.
Okay.
It allowed us to buy smoke alarms, 21,000 smoke alarms.
Okay.
It helped us get 6,000 carbon monoxide detectors. And what's kind of interesting is it also allowed us to, now that we had something to get out and number one, put up in homes.
Yeah.
And in the process of doing that, we also do what we call a home safety survey.
Okay.
So in the process of, you make an appointment with us, we come out to your house, we're also going to go around and we're going to share things. Hey, we see you have a lot of candles. We're going to give you some tips on how to use those safely. Hey, we were down in your basement putting up a smoke alarm and we noticed you have a lot of clothing or boxes or stuff stored close to your furnaces.
Yeah.
That stuff needs to be 3 feet away. Okay. Hey, it might be certain times of the year, hey, we notice you have a space heater, and space heaters should always be plugged directly into the wall. So it's not just us coming on and putting something up, but it's actually giving you some tips that will have the potential to reduce fires.
Now, this is done by who?
This is done by fire departments. Yeah. And a big partner of ours is the American Red Cross.
Okay.
So you have the Red Cross that's out there, and they do a Sound the Alarm campaign, and they're doing a whole bunch of stuff with that. And they ran that in the end of April into May, and we were definitely partnered with them at MI Prevention. Okay. But what's kind of interesting, remember I shared we had 21,000 and some smoke alarms, is we had targeted areas where we wanted to hit. Okay. Flint was a targeted area. Traverse City, Grand Traverse County was a targeted area. And then there were pockets of other places around the state that probably as we started collecting the data that we were getting back from these fatal fires, we started to see trends in places and pockets. Yeah. So we focused some of those efforts. But we realized that the state of Michigan and MI Prevention, we aren't going to be able to go out and go to every house. Yeah. So the whole premise of writing this grant is how do we get a statewide initiative rolling? And then how do we engage as many fire departments as we can? Sure. And currently we're at about 90 fire departments that are actively out there putting these up for us. Okay. But we have a waiting list. Yeah. And you say, well, how can you have a waiting list? We've actually dispersed all the smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors out to the communities. Okay. But we're also finding that some communities have put them up, they've saturated it, and we're going to be in the next couple of weeks where we're distributing them to fire departments. Okay. The other thing that we had a lot of coordination with is we had fire departments that also got grants. I'll give you an example. It's Saginaw Fire Department. Sure. Saginaw is a targeted group, and Saginaw has been working on MI prevention since the very beginning with us. Saginaw said to us, we don't need smoke alarms, but we need carbon monoxide detectors. That was in the grant. So in the case of Saginaw, we provided them the carbon monoxide detectors that they put up in tandem with their smoke alarms.
And these targeted areas, they're targeted because they've had high levels of
yes,
fire
they've had high levels,
fatalities.
and we're tracking that. And if you were to go on our website, Bureau of Fire Services,
sure.
If you go onto our website, you actually can see there's a map on there, and we're actually tracking in real time where these fires are occurring. And pretty soon you start to see, what we would say hotspots on the map. So you start to see a lot of, hey, this is happening. But what was even more disturbing as we've started to gather this data is that we found out that the folks that were dying in fires early on were over the age of 50. Okay. We've now moved that down to over the age of 40. Interesting. 70% of our fatalities in 2018, over 139 fatalities, 70% involved the person who died in the fire was over the age of 40. Okay. Now, fire department's going to still continue to go out into the schools. We're still going to go out and have the kids in for tours, fire stations. We're going to have Fire Prevention Month in October. Right. We're going to do all the things we've been doing. Right. But what we found is we needed to focus on how do we get into the community, and specifically how do we get into the homes that are 40 and over.
Sure.
Another alarming trend from the data that we collect from fire reports, but then we're getting back from the fatal fires is that we're finding out that the 60 to 69 age group and the National Fire Reporting System that's in place, they actually break it up into age groups. And they've been collecting that stuff for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Okay. That trend in Michigan is kind of there again, it's that hotspot, right? That's an area that we need to focus on. So what we've kind of doubled down, working with the fire departments, and when I say doubled down, we had a very successful spring of installations, and that included going over into Roseville, St. Clair Shores, and East Point. I'll use that as an example. Okay. Southern Macomb County. Okay. Those three communities had experienced 11 fatalities in those communities last year.
Just by fire alone?
Just by fire fatalities. So one of the things that we started to look at was that was an area that we targeted. We worked with all three fire departments. Those fire departments, they took a Friday, we went out together. And I thought what was interesting about that is they actually got the folks to participate by the firefighters going to a senior center luncheon.
Okay.
And so we can do an education component with our seniors, right? Our parents, our aunts and uncles, right?
Yeah.
Our neighbors. And in the process of educating them, of getting them to, that they wanted to have the fire department come out to their house. And in the process, we found out some of these homes didn't have any working smoke alarms.
Yeah, I've heard that quite often. You get requests from people who don't have fire alarms in their house, and a fire alarm in somebody's house can save lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very obvious, and you guys are doing a great job at getting the word out there. I know that we're helping you work on some websites.
We are,
We're getting the information out there so that there's a one-stop source for people who want to learn more about this and how to make their home safer and their parents' home safer and their family members. And if you just Google My Prevention, I think you end up there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can go to the LARA website, get to BFS, the Fire Services website, and then there's the My Prevention. Click through there. So I look forward to that.
How about I hold up this infographic too? And I think that's important. That's our logo there with the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
This is interesting. The first 1,500 homes we've been in, and this is available. It's out there on the Facebook page.
Okay.
One of the things that we're really taking away with My Prevention is it's the we.
Okay.
We are going to make a difference. And the we is us, My Prevention, working with the Michigan Fire Inspectors Society, as well as fire departments, the American Red Cross, U of M, Trauma and Burn Center, and I know I'm going to leave some out, but we're up to about 80 folks who are actively participating in this group.
In the My Prevention campaign. Okay.
And now we have Kimberly, who we were able to bring on as part of the grant, and she's actually coordinating the My Prevention. And I know that she'll get back with you. The other thing that you can do in your own community is reach out to your own fire department.
Okay.
Remember, I said we had almost 100 fire departments here, and we're almost out of those resources for now.
Yeah.
We submitted for another grant. We hope to be successful. To keep this going.
Yeah.
But also, a lot of fire departments have their own programs. So in the process of having their own programs, just calling your local fire department. For the fire departments that don't have smoke alarms, and we're gonna very quickly here have those handed out, or they'll all be out. They're not handed out either. These are installed.
Okay.
We're gonna install 21,000 smoke alarms statewide.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you have the financial means to buy smoke alarms, but you're maybe challenged with, hey, I'm not doing well on getting up on a ladder or with a drill and such.
Yeah.
I know if you call your local fire department, they come out and put them up for you.
Okay.
And also for sometimes places in the community, you're looking to how can you give back to your community? Reach out to your local fire department. I know that they would take a donation from you to buy smoke alarms for folks that maybe are a little
need them
disadvantaged or their resources financially are challenged. So, we've kind of put this all together. There's some synergy here, and it truly is the we. It's not about me.
Right.
It's not about you.
And it's a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal. We don't need to lose Michiganders to fire.
We don't.
And we can stop that if we work together on it. It says here that you should install a smoke alarm on every level of your home, and if possible, in every bedroom of your home. And if there's a fire in your home, I know that you've mentioned before about closing the door on your way out. Maybe take 30 seconds to just explain a couple of quick things that people can know that when it comes to fire, that it'll help save lives.
Okay. So United Laboratory,
Yeah.
big movement across the country. They've been doing some research. What they've been finding, I'm talking about research like thousands of fires they've studied.
Sure.
They have the ability to measure temperatures, and they're gathering all this data off of it. What they're finding out is with what's burning in the homes today, there's so much plastics and furniture and such. is the oxygen levels are going to drop in your home.
Okay.
You could be heading for the door, and if you don't head soon enough, the oxygen levels will drop to the point that you'll go unconscious and you won't get there.
Okay.
And I can't tell you how many of these fatalities, when we see the data coming in from the fire departments, and I get this almost within 24 hours, in most cases after a fatal fire, is the fire was in this room, but we found the person over going towards the front door.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just not getting there.
Yeah.
Closing the door buys you time to keep the fire from you. Okay. And if you really want, I would ask folks, go and Google, close the door, UL, okay. Close the door video. There is a 5-minute video, and I'm pretty sure we have it up on the My Prevention website. Okay. But watch that, and they'll show you a fire in like a living room with a bedroom where the door is closed. They'll show you one with the door open. Folks, you watch that, it'll all make sense what I've been talking about.
Yeah.
Keep those doors closed. Also, all these folks that are trying to go back to the doors, we're creatures of our routine, right? Yeah. We go back. The best thing you could do is have a phone with you in your bedroom. If you notice there's a fire in another part of your house, rather than trying to go back through, gather all your family members in one bedroom, close the door and go to a window. Yeah. And either climb out on your own or call 911 and let the fire department know where you're at. Okay. So there's been a big push even in the fire departments. I go out and talk with them. Folks, the fire departments have to get better at throwing ladders. And I say better, we're very good at throwing ladders. Yeah. But realizing that you need to get around to that backside, because we're going to start a push here in the media here shortly on education. Okay. That's going to talk about closing the door and going out a window. Okay. And that's having an escape plan. Yeah. And that's very important. Yeah. And folks, this isn't just talking about it, this is running it. Sure. And my kids are a little older now, yeah, but they liked when we did fire drills. I think you'd be surprised. It is a family activity that you can do, that you can have a little fun with it. But think about kids in school. When the fire alarm goes off, they all line up and they walk out of school, right? Yeah. Why? Yeah. Because they practice. Right. You need to do the same thing at your house.
Yeah. Yeah. And my kids, they know if there's a fire, come to our bedroom. We have a ladder, can get thrown out the window. We've practiced it before, and that's good for families around the state to do. Make sure that you talk about it, that you have a plan in place in case there's a fire. Make sure your kids know what they're expected to do, because when you're woke up in the middle of the night, things are a little draggy.
And we don't all wake up the best, right?
So you need to know what the plan is so that you can execute it. When your life's at stake there. Yeah. And by shutting those doors, my guess is that means you're stopping the flow of oxygen, which would stop the fire kind of.
Well, if you leave the door open and you open a window, it causes kind of almost like a chimney or draft. It's a flow path. Yeah. So by closing the door, but you're going to see that close the door campaigns coming out. Yep. As you said, we got some cool stuff coming here this year, and we're really gonna move into. That's kind of the neat thing. It's June and we're gaining momentum, and we are making a difference. Fire fatalities in the state are down. They're still too high. Okay. We're at 52 so far. That's too many. Okay. But one of the things that we can tell you is they definitely are down right now. I also will say this, that we're getting feedback from fire departments that, we're seeing people close the door. They're seeing people go about exiting a different way or escaping a different way. We just need to keep working on this. We'll continue to.
Well, that's good. Good news that the fire deaths are down. Let's get them down as low as we can.
Great. I'd be fine with we didn't have any more the rest of the year, right? That is our goal. Our goal is, but we also know that we need to prevent fires. Yeah. So, that's one of the things as we go into the season. It's coming into barbecue season. Yeah. Just the other day, somebody had a grill in their garage. Folks, we got to move these grills out of the garage. You got to move them 10 feet away from your house. Yeah. I know a lot of people have their grills on the back deck up against their house. That's like the worst place. Sure. You get that vinyl siding going, it's up into the attic, and unfortunately, you're going to lose everything. So we want you to have fun. We want you to get out and experience the warmer weather, but we need you to do it smarter. And when I say smarter, is think about some of these things you're about ready to do. That if you were to have a grease fire on your grill and it caught the side of your house on fire, distance is a good thing. Yeah. And if we do some of those things, so we'll continue to. It's this community risk reduction. Yeah. It's not just smoke alarms. It's education. It's really changing a culture, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in the United States, we have a lot of fires, and this is an effort that I'll say that My Prevention is involved in with a group called Vision 2020, which is a national approach, and we've been invited to to participate in a lot of that stuff, and it's going to pay dividends here in our state.
Yeah, well, glad to hear it. Well, thanks for stopping by.
You bet.
Appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time on the next edition of LARA Live.
Great.